because I know that you say that podcasting should be social, that it's community, it's communication, it's all of that, which is clearly something that matters to you, like with PodHouston and with all the work that you've done supporting creatives. Can you talk about that whenever it comes to like the mission of a podcast being social and being about community and education, communication, all those things versus what someone might see from the outside, which is advertisers, dollars. I'm just here to make a buck, that kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with making a buck. I like to make a lot of bucks, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That conversation, I think, is people need to talk about it more because I think there's some assumption that just because you say, no, I'm a podcaster, that you have all these advertisers and thousands of dollars being thrown at you. And it's not the case. And it's actually not even always the goal.
That's right. That's right.
So, preach.
Yeah. So, wow. Where do we go? Let's see. This is a topic that I'm very passionate about. I just got back from Podcast Movement, which is, as you know, is one of the largest podcasting conferences in the country, possibly the world. And it was interesting. It was an interesting take, Brittany, because when I first started podcasting, it was very indie. It was very creative focused, a lot of hobbyists, right? A lot of mission driven creators that wanted to start a podcast. And now seeing the industry completely change and seeing it where it's now $1 billion industry, and there's major advertisers now into the space, and we're hearing more and more headlines or reading headlines about podcasters making mad money. We heard about the Kelsey brothers, multi-3 $1 million deal for 3 years for Spotify and Joe Rogan. And we see all this, and as an indie creator, and especially for our audience, it's easy to look at that and amplify the imposter syndrome even more, because we see those higher level celebrities get these massive podcasting deals. And I like to just say, hey, I think there's money involved, which is, as an indie creator, I think that's very promising. I think it's great for us. I think we should get excited about that, knowing that there's advertisers there that are willing to invest in podcasting. But I feel like there's a really exciting time for indie creators to get a piece of the pie as well. And, the pros are here. They're doing it on a massive level. And I think that there's a great opportunity. I still feel like it's still equal playing field where we have the opportunity to build our audience. Because one of the topics that the advertiser was saying is like, we want to be pitched by indie creators. Like, bring it. It's just indie creators are not pitching. So the money is out there, so I encourage creators, they're waiting for you. And I spoke to a few major advertisers. They're like, hey, we would love to work with indie creators, micro influencers, et cetera. So it's really exciting times for podcasters, especially for mission driven podcasters. And, I always say, Brittany, that a lot of people get into podcasting because they want this, especially a lot of like in the B2B space, the ROI, where it's like, what's the ROI of podcasting? And, the ROI is number one, what you make it. I think if you are a mission driven, indie podcaster, building an audience, isn't that an ROI? Like building a legit audience where you're showing up weekly and you're getting consistent weekly downloads and you're getting 30 to 40 consistent, people listening to your show. That's an ROI. Building an audience in 2024 is not easy, as being in the social media space. So any attention, we're in the attention space, and which is the reason why now we're seeing more higher level, even mid-tier like influencers and celebrities getting into the podcasting space, because podcasting is still one of the most intimate mediums out there, more than video. Video is personal, but podcasting is intimate. And as a matter of fact, when it comes to retention, there was a big talk now with video versus audio, and it's not about video versus audio, it's video and audio now. But still audio still has over 60% retention rate. That the advertisers know that if you can still listen, right, not watch, listen to the podcast host do the podcast and do the interview, that right there carries weight for advertisers. So audio isn't going to go anywhere. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a friend of mine. I feel like audio is the blue ocean right now, because everybody's now doing video podcasts, but they're doing video podcasts really badly. They're not really doing it well. And I think video is powerful for marketing, but I think that there's still a beautiful space for conversation, for us to just simply get intimate and really have deep conversations about topics and talk about things that normally can't be talked about on mass media. And I think that's where the attraction is going to continue going to podcasting. So it's not going to go anywhere. I think we're going to see a lot more people get into this space because they do see the value in podcasting for building an audience, or I would say building a brand, attracting an audience, and of course, monetizing your message. And I think we're going to see that more and more moving forward with podcasting. Does that answer your question?
It does answer my question. Thank you. That's fantastic. And I wonder if you might agree or can expand on this to give the listeners something practical, because I agree with you about the intimate vibes of a podcast of audio. I mean, you are up in their ear in that little earbud. Yeah. Like they could be, out for a walk or a run, or they're doing dishes or whatever. It's also convenient, right? I agree with you. So, which is funny coming from me to say that, like, I think that actually audio is a little more important when it comes to podcasting than video, because I'm such a video person, right? Working in social media, video is like everything right now. And there's nothing like it. It's a motion picture. It's great, right? But I think on the practical side for podcasters listening, which can lead us into like maybe giving some tips and some just like real actionable things that somebody could do, is that for me, like when I'm working with a client that wants help with podcasting and social media, like we don't have to make it an entire video show. Cause like you said, like a lot of them aren't that great anyway. It's kind of hard. It's hard to set up like a really amazing, perfect video studio, like in your freaking office or your house, right? That's hard to do. So something I would say that's practical is like even what you and I are on right now, we're on a recording platform that lets you record video, and you can just take little bits of it to help promote the episode. You don't have to like feel that pressure of like, this has to be a full like television
fully
interview,
produced, right?
Like that's kind of the way I look at it. It's like, so then you're kind of getting the best of both worlds, because you want to talk about every episode when they come out. You want to get people excited, and it's so cool to see the people's faces and see them talking in the video. But like, we don't have to worry about making some super expensive, elaborate video program that's like the whole episode, right?
No, 1000%. I agree with you. I feel like, and again, and there was this topic again about audio versus video, which is better. And, it's audio, and then it's like the video, and this is where it's at, because video is where it's going. And with YouTube, and again, I just think it's just, audio and video. I do believe, video is the most personalized version of yourself. And I actually, here's a fun fact. And I'm a big, old school OG RSS feed, Apple Podcasts listener. I am finding myself, and data is showing this is where it's going. I'm finding myself listening and watching podcasts on YouTube more than anything else. And I actually like watching like the podcast. So I'm like, I hear their voice. I'm like, I want to see what they look like, their vibe. I'm like, I really, so it matters. Video matters. It's super, super important, and I feel like it's the front door to your podcast. And I feel like it's, if you strategically as marketing, it has to be like, you have to use video for marketing, right? For your podcast, because audio is hard to scale. It really, really is. This, right? It's like, we don't have the luxury of Apple or Spotify having this, algorithm that will share, our content. I mean, and they kind of do, but not as good as YouTube. Right. Yeah. YouTube has that discoverability, right? So yeah, I think that now, and there was somebody there, he's the host of the Diary of CEO, Stephen Bartlett, said, if you're not using video, you are seriously at a competitive disadvantage.
Listen to this entire episode on any major podcast platform. Simply search the Social Sunshine Podcast.